Hi, everybody. The New York Comic Con 2023 is upon us, and Veve has some very interesting and fun drops. But what does it mean for the future of it? So Veve announced their latest New York Comic Con 2023 drops. They look spectacular. You've probably seen those online. You can go to their Twitter and see it. I'll run through a couple of them here in my thoughts. Obviously, X-Men #1. I have my X-Men #1 behind me here. Is a huge grail. That's a fun one. A lot of people want to own that one in the real world and in the digital world. So that will be one I'll definitely be going for. We did see a couple other cool new digital collectibles. Kingpin looks fantastic. And of course, the dual Professor X and Magneto, both with the kind of cool animations. A different style of art. David, you did mention it. More kind of cartoony, maybe more like the comic books. I really like it. So I hope they do the rest of the team like that. And maybe we'll be getting those. So that'll be something to look forward to. I would bet that they probably have them all, lined up for the next maybe 12 months, etc. But it's been about 2 years since I started in on this kind of journey with digital collectibles, NFTs, and Veve. And I just kind of wanted to look at where it's at and where it's going. If you look at a lot of the prices, they're really, really down. So I think depending on the collectible you want to look at, it could be down as much as 90%. So that's really, really painful. A lot of people say, oh, it's dead, it's gone. But really, I, in looking at it, feel like I'm as confident as ever. That's kind of difficult to say, especially when you're sitting down here in the depths of a bear market. But I'll run some numbers past you. Always numbers with me, and we'll talk about the economics, because really that is what I think the biggest opportunity is. And you try to look at it through the lens of a business, which that's what Marvel is. So let's jump right into it. So I'm gonna throw some numbers at you quickly. I'll try and get through them, but I think they're important, and then we'll talk about it. So let's talk about Marvel. I'm going to do a bunch of guesswork here from the physical perspective. So we know that, if there's a big, comic like Spider-Man that drops every month, they're printing about 100K of those. Sometimes less, sometimes more, but that's what we feel like, maybe a little bit more. And if you extrapolate that out and do a bunch of numbers, we know they sell for $5, and there's different discounts for distributors, and maybe after printing costs and shipping, maybe in the end they're making $2 off of that. That's probably maybe even guessing high, but we'll throw that number out. It's nice and easy. So if you look at that, it's $2, 100K print run. They're making 200K a month. That's 2.4 million a year. Like I said, lots of numbers. We know they have other comics too. Avengers, Ms. Marvel, Black Panther, Captain America. These all run, but they don't sell 100,000 of those each month. We also know that they do, ones that do quite well, they do, first print, second print, third print. So they're printing, they're making more. Those runs are significantly less. But if you try and munge it all together, I kind of came up with maybe 15 more titles each month that they're making money off of. Obviously not selling 100K. So if you do quick math on that, that might be another 1.5 million a month. And if you add it all up, it's around $20 million a year they're making gross off of their comics. Now, what does that mean, gross? It means like they haven't paid, their employees. They haven't paid the writers. They haven't paid the artists. They haven't paid for rent. They have marketing costs, going to these different Comic Cons, etc. And so when you look at that, and my guess is that it's pretty close. I mean, they might lose money in a year. They might make some money in a year, but it's not like, crazy, crazy profits. Now, of course, where the profitability and other things are is they license it out to merchandise. So, you can buy lots of Spider-Man stuff all over the world, from blankets to, lunchboxes, etc. And obviously the movies. So they may make a lot more money off of that, and that's pure profit, because they may say, hey, you give me 5%, and the company's doing all this other stuff, and they're just getting that money. So there's definitely that may be where they make more of their money. So maybe it's, they might run their comic business at a loss, but they're making money in the other areas. So that's kind of the economics of where I would guess they're at. So remember this $20 million mark from the comic perspective. So let's run to Veve quickly. And of course, they look at it differently, right? It's just another license, like a lunchbox to a certain degree. So they have licensed these comics to Veve. They're making, we don't know, but we can guess. But, maybe they're making 50 cents. I don't know. But they're making probably a relatively large percent off of each of these sales. So let's do some quick numbers. When back in the day when Veve was really pumping, they were selling 30,000 of each book twice a week at $6. And if you extrapolate all that out and add some transaction fees and other things, I kind of came with this number of 11 million. So $11 million, it's a big number, especially when you look at that 20 million. And then now things aren't going as well. They've pushed the numbers of the print runs down, the mint numbers down to 10,000. And so if you run those numbers, maybe they're making around 6 million a year. But either way, when you look at that as a percentage of the physical world, which is 20, so 6 and 20 is, easy math, probably around 20, 30%. So, which is a massive increase. And if it's at that $11 million mark, oh my Lord, that's a 50% more revenue than what you had. And when you look at a market like comic books that have been around for 100 years plus, I mean, it's pretty stagnant. We know that, right? And really, to a certain degree, maybe they've seen some of their best big push because the MCU was so popular over the last 10, 20 years. Maybe it's kind of subsiding right now. People aren't as into the movies and shows. They're trying to get it back, as we know. So it's maybe not a market which, and once again, I'm talking about the physical side, is going to grow a lot. And they know this, right? So as a company, they're looking, and now that they've seen 2 years of this market and they've been able to sell stuff, and they know that markets are cyclical, they go up and down. I think it's enough revenue that they're going to say this is significant. So what happened this week, and what is the big change? So Veve announced this partnership with a new publisher, it looks like. I'm not exactly sure of it, but they have this comic called Addiction coming out. And it looks like an independent. It doesn't have anything to do with Marvel. But it just shows how they're going to drop NFTs and comics together. They're going to be able to pull on both of these kind of audiences. And this potentially is showing us the future. This publisher could make money off of both. Maybe arguably could make more money off the NFT side. So it's definitely very, very interesting. And I think that the entire market is going to watch and see what happens here. Another significant thing is this is a new title. So all the titles that, all the projects we've seen from DC to Veve, they are dropping existing titles, relatively key ones that are in the past. So this is what we're seeing, a foray into new titles. And so this will be very interesting. I think from the economics of that's also interesting too to try, and I've mentioned this in other videos, is that if they can, because all these costs, they got to print and all these other things. They still have to have a writer, artist, etc. But the printing and shipping and all these other things, storage of all these different comics, definitely is expensive. If you can just try to roll it out on an NFT platform, the opportunity costs are much, much less. And so you can try different things. And maybe this will be a way for people to be much more creative than we've ever seen. So I am curious to see where this leads. I do think it is opening a new door. And let me just back up for a second and talk about the medium of NFTs and digital collectibles and how it's a brand new one and how we've seen it evolve over time. So if you look at movies, for example, obviously you just, in the old days, you could only see it in the movie. Then they came out with VHS, which migrated to DVDs. And if you recall, you probably don't recall, but if you were around when I was live, people really disliked that from the perspective of they've had this huge VHS collection. And then from DVDs, obviously they had, 4K DVDs, never ending, right? I know for myself, I bought the Star Wars trilogy 10 times throughout the years. And then now it's kind of migrated to the streaming thing. But I do believe that people are still going to want to own these products. And so I think all the movies eventually will be on NFT, in NFT format. So where does this all take us? I don't know. I'm still along for the journey, as you know. I think the economics of it are very interesting. The other thing I will point out when you're looking at a company is you're always looking at, your opportunity for gaining new customers. That's one of the biggest things because customers drives everything. And so when you're in the United States printing comics, you're really selling to Canada and the United States. And we know that if you have a digital comic that you're selling, you can really sell it, anywhere in the world. And that opens the doors to a lot of people because most of the people in the world don't live in the United States and Canada. They live in other continents, as we well know. So this is a huge opportunity. I think these businesses understand that. But we're not out of the woods. There's obviously a lot of stuff that still has to happen. And of course, this specific company, the one that I talk mostly about on this channel, which is Veve, we don't know. Is Veve more of a MySpace or a Facebook? Is it more of a Yahoo or a Google? But Yahoo had a good run too. So we don't know kind of in the life cycle of this digital collectible platforms where we're at. But for me, I find it fascinating, and I definitely think from what we've seen over the past 2 years, things look good, and it definitely is going to be a fun ride. Take care.